Welcome everybody to a new lesson. In this one we're going to learn how to dominate the fretboard using only two scales. Now just a heads up for those of you who know the modes, we're going to put that on the side for now. We're going to dominate the entire fretboard with only two scales, and these scales are the major and the minor scales. And we're going to use only four shapes. Well, to be fair, it's only two shapes, one for the major, one for the minor, and then a variation on it. Okay, so this is why I said four, but practically it's just two shapes. Let's dive right into it, and you'll understand along the way. So first, let's start with a quick recap. You remember the major scale, we learned a few shapes. The standard shape, which is this one, or the standard shape E shape, okay? For now, we're just gonna call it the standard shape, okay? And then the 3 note per string shapes. There you go. We're gonna use these two shapes. What I want to do is take this G major scale and play it somewhere else on the fretboard. Just like we have a bar chord that I call root on 6 because the root of the bar chord is on the string 6. We have a root 5 bar chord, this one. Okay? Well, I'm gonna play a scale root on 5, right? Starting on 5. So I'm going to take the same scale, this one, and I'm going to play it starting on this G note. So here's what I'm going to do. Till now it's all the same. What should happen is this, but these are out of tune, okay? In order to fit with the scale, I need to move everything up one fret. So I get this, which is basically that. It's the same thing as that. Just an octave higher. And then I got this. And I end on the G note. There you go. Okay? So now for the G scale, G major scale, this is my 3 note per string pattern, root on 6. And this is my 3 note per string pattern, root on 5. Okay. Now, if I'm using the standard shape, I do the exact same thing. That's my standard shape, and I'm gonna do the exact same thing here. And now I have to move up. Okay. Now to continue the scale, I need to keep moving up. So essentially, that's about it. Alright, so these are my two shapes now, which brings me to the next subject, relative keys. So what are relative keys? Relative keys are keys that have the same note, exactly the same notes, okay, but they start from a different tonic, meaning from a different root note. So, for example, G major and E minor are relative keys. Why? Because, let me show you why. In G major, here are my notes. G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and then G, right? In E minor, and I'm going to play it here to avoid any confusion, it's E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, and then E. These are the same notes, but the order is different. I'm starting from another starting point, right? So these two keys are relative keys. They share the same notes, but not the same root note. So how do I determine relative keys, or how do I find them on the guitar? Really easy. If I'm starting from the major scale, all I have to do is go down a minor third, which means go down 3 frets. So if I'm starting from G, I go down 1, 2, 3. I land on E, okay? And vice versa. If I'm starting from the minor key and I want to find my relative major key, I move a third up. So I start from E, and there you go. 3 frets up, I find my relative major key. So why did I mention this relative minor thing? Because, again, if two scales share the same notes, well, can I play those two scales interchangeably? The answer is yes, obviously, right? Which means if I'm improvising over a track, I could a track in G major. I could either use G major or I could use E minor, and it will still sound good. And let me show you, in case you don't trust me. I know you do. I'm joking, but let's go. Alright, here's a track in G major, and I'll start with G major. Let's go. That's G major. Now I'm going to play E minor. To avoid any confusion, I'm going to start E minor from here. Alright, so there you go. I just proved to you that both scales work over a track in G major. Which brings me to the next stage of this lesson, which is I'm going to do the exact same thing of playing a scale on root on 6 and then root on 5, but now for the minor key, for the minor scale. Alright, so we've already established that it's the relative minor of G major is E minor. So I'm going to start with E minor. Obviously, I could do exactly the same thing for 3-note per string shapes and for the standard shapes. So I'm going to do this really fast. So that's my E minor. And obviously, I could play it open position or here. I'll start with this. That's my E minor scale. I could do it here as well. There you go. That's my root on 6. 3-note per string. If I want to play it as standard, I do this. Okay, there you go. So now I have my shapes, and here's what it means. Because we also established that I could play any scale interchangeably. What's going to happen is that it's going to open up the whole fretboard for me when I'm playing over a track. Because I have E minor here in open position. Then afterwards I have the G major, 3-note per string. And guess what? After the G major, I have E minor again, but root on 5. And this is what I'm going to deal with right now. So that's my E note, and I can play the 3-note per string here as well. And as I mentioned before, I got to move up here. There you go. Or I could do the standard shape. So after playing this E minor shape, what I have here is the G again. So I can play the G major scale here. Regardless, 3-note per string or standard shape. And now I'm here in this area and I have the E minor again. See how I've opened up the entire fretboard and now I can play anywhere I want as long as I know how to find the G note and the E note and then apply the major scale and the minor scale. There you go. So now we're gonna train on that, and usually I like to train with a track. So I'm gonna play the track and have you train on playing all of the shapes up and down the fretboard. All right, so we're gonna start playing G major track. We're gonna start with E minor here. Or we can start with G major, E minor, G. Obviously I'm going fast, but you take your time trying to figure those out. Now E minor again, and then G again, E minor again. There you go. Alright, so you do that. You practice that with 3 different keys and you apply that on the backing track. You take your time to really open up the fretboard. Try to see how they all fit together, how they come one after another, and it keeps repeating all the way up until you run out of fretboard. Alright, so there you go. That's the application. And that's the assignment. Just play over the track, have fun, and only then, when you feel comfortable, is when you can start improvising with all these shapes. And when we start improvising, as always, what we try to do is find a great melody, and take it from there. All right. If you need any help, you know where to find me. Practice well. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.